Before we get into the video, I'm so sorry for the poor audio and the lack of visuals. I tried a few different things. YouTube's copyright is super strict. It doesn't matter how you slice and dice and edit it. I couldn't even share the video because of copyright. So I've had to remove all the video, and then the audio went a bit funny. But I'm glad I could share my opinion in some capacity because I really hope it generates some discussion about what you guys thought about Dragon Ball Daima. So enjoy the video. And in this video, I will be talking about my thoughts of Dragon Ball Daima. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, I've spent many years living in Japan and running a figurine store. Dragon Ball has had a huge impact on my life. Massive fan, as I'm sure you are. Definitely keen what you think of Dragon Ball Daima. Make sure you leave a comment to share your thoughts. But for me, the first thing that struck me with the series is obviously the death of Toriyama Akira, which happened in March 2024. So, really sad to think that we will not be getting any more, Dragon Ball as a result. It's hard to believe that Dragon Ball finished essentially in 1995 in Japan. That's when, the comic series finished. That's when Dragon Ball Z, the animation series, finished. And then we've had GT and obviously, the movies and Dragon Ball Super. But Dragon Ball Daima is designed, the story, characters, like this is a true Toriyama Akira creation, and it's really, I guess, his final gift to us. It's quite emotional, really. I mean, I was shocked, like I'm sure you were, when he passed away, because he never really he was a recluse, right? So he didn't have photos and interviews and things like that. So he was almost like a god. It was almost like you knew he existed, but you never really saw him, and it was just such a shock when he passed away, because it was just totally out of the blue. And I think he was only 68 when that happened. So definitely wanted to give credit and love to Toriyama Sensei. So the next thing is that Dragon Ball Daima, 20 episodes, only 20 episodes, very, very short series. I wish it was longer. I think it should have been longer, but it is worth noting that Dragon Ball Daima and Dragon Ball in general, the story moves very, very quickly, right? We have had obviously fillers like the Garlic Jr. saga and things like that over the years, but generally, if you watch a series like One Piece, basically they split all the characters up, and you tend to have 4 or 5 stories going at one time. So when you watch 20-minute episode, each segment is really, each kind of mini story, if you like, is really only 3 or 4 minutes. And I find you get to the end of the episode and you go, oh, I don't actually feel like anything changed or moved. So it was a very punchy 20 episodes. There's a lot packed in. But that being said, I really can't help but thinking that I wish that they made the series longer. I would have liked if they kind of did a 20 episode kind of prequel and show, the story about, well, okay, there's this King Abura and then his son Dabura, and how did he actually become the king, and then how did he get connected to Babidi, and then how did that connect to, the Dragon Ball Z story. And then they could have then gone and kind of done what they've done here, which is essentially Dragon Ball Daima. So I really would have loved to have had, say, a 40 episode, so I mean, of course, more is better, but I'm just saying as an example, or even 30, have 10 prequel and then 20 with what they did. But I definitely did feel that 20 was short, but I do acknowledge that there's basically no filler in this. So speaking of which, as you can see on the screen, the connection to the Buu saga, I really liked that, because I always really liked Dabura as a character. I just thought that he really looked cool, and he has this cool ability as well of turning people into stone. And I kind of feel like in some ways they kind of wasted this really cool character, because I remember even when he appeared, I'm like, okay, so he's a king of the demons. Like, what does that actually mean? Because he's not from Earth, and then we know that if you fall off Snake Way, that's hell, or in the English version they changed it to HFIR, Home for Infinity Losers. But like King Yemma is kind of the guy who controls that. So I never really understood who is this, king of the demons. Like, it just didn't make sense. So I'm really glad that they actually had this whole series about, well, this is what the demon world actually is. And I like that they didn't fall into this trap of just, well, let's just make it like hell with volcanoes and it's red and it's hot. And, it actually made it like this sort of livable world with towns and villages and all that sort of stuff. So I really liked it. And it also reminded me, and I think most Dragon Ball fans will agree with me on this, if you break Dragon Ball Z down, there's really three sagas, right? I mean, you have the Saiyan saga, but that morphs into the Frieza, the Namek saga, and the Frieza saga, and then you have the Android saga that morphs into the Cell saga. But you really only have Frieza, Cell, and Buu. They're the main three villains, and I would say for me that the Buu saga was probably the least favorite. But it was still really, really good. I mean, you had, Supreme Kai and, this mysterious thing. Even actually the filler at the start, where you have the Otherworld tournament with Goku and Pikkon. And then even I enjoyed the episodes with the Great Saiyaman and Vidal and Goten and Child Trunks. And then, of course, you have the World Martial Arts tournament. And then you have, Daburo and Pui Pui and Spopovich and all those characters. Of course, you have Fusion with Vegito, Gotenks. You have the fight between Majin Vegeta and Goku, and then Majin Vegeta kind of officially becomes a good guy. Then you have all the different forms of Buu. You have there's just so much in that series to absolutely love, and I feel like this was kind of connected to the Buu saga. So I really enjoyed that continuation of it, and I really like the Kais as well. With Arinsu and Degesu. I didn't really like the whole thing with Dragon Ball Super where they made all this whole multi-universe thing and there's just more layers of gods. I actually like how they just sort of made it of, they're these species, right? So I really liked that connection to the Buu saga. Now the next thing is the story. So obviously we have the story of the characters getting shrunk down, and I think there's a lot of people out there who would say, I don't like that because they already did that in Dragon Ball GT and it's a bit more kiddie and the fighting's not as interesting. I think it's a reasonable compromise because the reason that they did that actually in Dragon Ball GT was because, Goku and Vegeta were just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and basically they were just too strong. And so by turning them back into children, you sort of level the playing field, and that way you can have the story more balanced with, okay, you've got the fighting, but you've also got the adventure and you've also got the comedy as well. And I think that they really got that balance right with Daima, and therefore I think it's a reasonable compromise to make. You also get into the whole thing about is it canon, because it's not from the manga, and technically Toriyama didn't come up with the story and that kind of thing. So I quite like that, and I thought the story in general was pretty good. I thought the pace moved quite fast, and just in general, I think, the character designs, I really like the character designs. Like I said, the Kais, and then also seeing, Goma was really cool. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of, Majin Ku and Majin Du, and then, you had Neva with the Namekian, and, there's sort of a bit of recycling there, but it's okay, it's okay. And Goma's really cool, and then you've got Glorio and the Panzi as well. I think it was a really, overall just really good mix of characters. And speaking of which, the comedy, and I really enjoyed the comedy in this series. There was I really loved some of the back and forth with Hybus, where Vegeta, because remember Vegeta was brought up as a prince, right? And so he's just in general, he's very confident, he's very arrogant. He always speaks to people. I always watch it in Japanese, and he always used neireben, which is nani nani nasai. It doesn't. It's not please do this. It's always ordering people to do it. I'm not sure how it comes out in the English translation, but it's and then Hybus calls him out straight away, I'm not going to answer you if you talk to me like that, and then the exchange when Bulma's I don't really want to turn back into an adult, and there's this whole back and forward with Hybus asking her to be his girlfriend, and he's not fazed at all with the fact that her husband is sitting right there, and the comments about even at the end, actually this is the funniest moment when Bulma towards the end, bit of a spoiler here, I should say there's spoilers in this this video, sorry, I should have said that at the start, but when Bulma says, hey, I'm never going to have a bath with you again if you don't do what I say. And I was watching that with my partner, and we just both cracked up laughing because, I'm always nagging her to, have a bath or a shower together. And she's like, people don't do that. I'm like, yes, they do. And then, we've had this back and forward for ages, and just totally out of the blue, this happens in the series, and we just both burst out laughing. It was a genuinely funny, it's not that kind of boring slapstick humor. I feel like it's genuine, comedy. So, again, I think they really got that balance right again between the action, but also with the story and the comedy as well. The fights, the quality of the fights, I thought overall they were pretty good. Obviously, nothing totally epic, nothing Goku versus Freezer type, battle of the planet. The fights to get the Dragon Balls as well, like they were pretty short and sweet. Nothing too crazy about that. But I thought they were good. They were reasonable. They were believable and pretty short and sweet. But I think it gets the point across. I think it didn't fall into that whole trap of just like power up, new form. Like it just got crazy with Dragon Ball Super. You just lose track of like all the different forms of this color here, that color here. Like I really liked how there was just some general kind of, you sort of know the who's who. It's like, okay, yeah, Child Goku is actually stronger than Glorio, and that has an impact with the story because you can tell Glorio is like, oh, I actually got to watch myself with these guys. So I thought they were again, because of the balance with the action and the comedy. I thought the fighting was pretty good in that sense. In saying that though, the transformations towards the end, the big thing here, right, was Vegeta turned Super Saiyan 3. Now that is a big deal. I think it happened in like Dragon Ball Z Heroes or something that's not officially canon, but it does happen. But now it's like kind of official canon, that Vegeta goes Super Saiyan 3. And this is a big moment, right? Super Saiyan 3 is a big deal. You think about when Goku turns Super Saiyan 3 when he's fighting Buu, and the whole planet literally is shaking, and Goku has to really spend a lot of time powering up. And even when you think about when Vegeta becomes Super Saiyan for the first time, he turns Super Saiyan when he's fighting Android 19, and everyone's like, whoa, now he's a Super Saiyan? Like, whoa, what does that mean? Is he good? Is he bad? And it shows the flashback where he's on some random planet, and he's like, I just lost it. I just didn't care about it anymore, and I just released everything. It was a big moment. And when they did that with Vegeta, it was so poorly done. It was probably my biggest complaint about the show, because it should have been a big moment. Like, hey, this is Vegeta's moment, and he didn't even have like the aura, the sort of yellow waves around him. He just, like he said, just goes boom, Super Saiyan 3, and I was like, oh, okay, so Vegeta, okay. I thought it was a cool moment, but the execution, it was a cool idea, I should say, but the execution was really, really poor, and I find it hard to kind of let that slide. Like, they should be better than that. And then he pretty much gets beaten up anyway, so it could have been and should have been way cooler, I thought. And the other thing is, and again, a bit of a spoiler, but I was really hoping they would give Vegeta his moment. Like Vegeta's kind of like, he's sort of officially a good guy now. Let Vegeta save the day. And I know some purists, especially in Japan, Goku's, interesting fact, Goku is definitely the favorite character in Japan. I think in the West, Vegeta is definitely, trust me, I've sold, 10,000 figures, literally, and Vegeta just always sells better overseas. Give Vegeta a moment, man. Like, it doesn't, I know some people are going to disagree with me on this, but it doesn't always have to be Goku. And in fact, Toriyama Sensei actually planned to have Gohan become the hero. That's why the whole thing with the Cell Saga happened. And then he kind of scrapped that idea and went back to Goku. But I really thought it would have been cool to have, Vegeta play the hero. Now, of course, in the end, it wasn't actually Goku either. It ended up, being Majin Buu. So, but still, I think it would have been cool to have, like, say, Vegeta turn Super Saiyan 3 and then maybe save the day. But anyway. But then we wouldn't have had that funny moment with Bulma. And then I'm going to show my ignorance here, but what was the deal with the transformation with Goku at the end? Now, they do actually mention, Vegeta actually mentions that, you turn Super Saiyan 4, but Super Saiyan 4 is black hair. If you remember back to Dragon Ball GT, that's when they kind of have the crazy, like, half monkey, half human hair. But it's black. So, I don't know what's going on with that. Now, there is a red hair character, but that's Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, which is when Vegeta and Goku fuse. Now, why does black and black make red? I don't know, but that's what they did in GT. But I never remember seeing Goku as a red-haired Super Saiyan 4. So, mate, leave a comment. What's the deal with that? I don't know. Is it meant to be Super Saiyan 4? Is it meant to be another transformation? Because, like I said, there was a moment where Goku goes, you're hiding that you can turn Super Saiyan 3. And Vegeta's like, you're hiding you can turn Super Saiyan 4. And I was like, well, so is GT canon? Is it not canon? Is that their way of making it canon? But yeah, it was a bit confusing to me. But look, overall, what did I think of Dragon Ball Daima? I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I remember getting to the end and I said to my partner, I said, what did you think of it? And she goes, yeah, Dragon Ball. That's all she said. She's a person of few words, and I thought that pretty much sums it up. You know, it looks, it feels, it smells like Dragon Ball. It's great. I love it. Really, really well done. Where would I rank it in terms of the whole Dragon Ball thing? It's tough, right? Because if you take Dragon Ball Super and you take the best 20 episodes of Dragon Ball Super, or you take the best 20 episodes of Dragon Ball GT, is it better than Dragon Ball Daima? Obviously very subjective. I think there's a strong argument to say yes. But I think if you take an average and you say, well, on average, was Dragon Ball Daima better than Dragon Ball Super? I think there's a very strong argument to say yes. I guess ultimately the way I look at it is if I could only have one or the other, right? If one was kind of removed out of existence and could keep one, I would pick Dragon Ball Daima over Dragon Ball Super. I know that's, a lot of people might disagree with that. Leave a comment and tell me why. But I just didn't like the whole, you know, multi-universe thing, and, you know, Frieza coming back. I love Frieza, my favorite saga, but, you know, Frieza coming back again and turning the movies into series, and just, you know, oh, they have red hair, oh, they have blue hair, oh, they have silver hair. You know, it just didn't do it for me. And then there's like Saiyans, but they're not Saiyans, and they're in alternate universe and all that. So I would pick Dragon Ball Daima over Dragon Ball Super. GT's a tough one. I've always been a bit of a fan of GT. I mean, I understand why people criticize it. But I think it gets a bit of an unfair rap. There's some cool stuff in there, right? You've got Nova Shenron, Omega Shenron. The whole space journey is kind of cool. The Tuffles, Baby, of course. You know, the Gold Monkey Ozaru, Super Saiyan 4. Like, there's a lot in there. So, I mean, they're all kind of close, but I would probably say, you know, Dragon Ball GT above Dragon Ball Daima, but it's close. And then, obviously, you know, OG Dragon Ball, and then, you know, Dragon Ball Z as my favorite. Of course, Dragon Ball Kai is basically Dragon Ball Z. But that's how I would rank them. Let me know in the comments what you felt, how you would rank them, and what you liked, what you didn't like about the series. But thank you very much to Toriyama Sensei for giving us, you know, one last gift, Dragon Ball Daima. Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.